Stop, exactly where you are right now. There is something you have carried for years, a question no one around you can answer, and a weight you have learned to call normal life, but which deep down you know does not belong to you. You have worked harder than anyone you know. You have tried to heal wounds that were not caused by you, and yet the door you so desperately seek seems to always remain one step beyond your reach. There is a specific reason for this. There is a hidden knot in your identity that is directly tied to your maternal lineage, and until you understand the nature of this bond, you will continue running in circles. In this conversation, you will recognize the 5 signs that have been appearing in your life and what they mean on the spiritual plane. You will understand the exact pattern that has blocked your flourishing, turning your faithfulness into exhaustion. And before this moment ends, I will make a declaration directly about your story, a revelation that explains why you were brought here today, exactly at this moment in your journey. You have felt sudden waves of a fatigue that sleep does not resolve. You often wake up feeling you carry the weight of a responsibility that has no name. Conversations with the people who should be your source of support now seem empty, as if you were speaking a language they cannot translate. You notice numbers repeating, coincidences that do not seem to be random, and a vivid dream that insists on showing you that something inside you is trying to break through an old shell. All of this is not a deviation, nor a sign that you are losing control. On the contrary, it is your spiritual system trying to recalibrate, trying to separate what is your essence from what was inherited through blood, pain, and your mother's silence. You have sought external validation to fill a void that can only be filled when you accept that your mother's wound is not yours, and that her destiny does not need to be your destiny. Your fingers typing these 3 numbers are your way of saying yes to liberation. It is not just a sequence, it is the symbol of overflow, the sign that the old cycle is ending so the new can finally begin. Type 888 and then return immediately to me. The exhaustion you feel does not come from your work. It comes from your silent attempt to carry the burden she never managed to put down. You have lived years under the command of needing to be the salvation, the cure, or the answer for a woman who, in turn, was also operating at the edge of her own pain, trapped in a cycle that was passed down from generation to generation. You assumed a contract you never signed. You tried to prove your worth through sacrifice, believing that if you were good enough, if you were strong enough, you would finally earn the right to be seen, to be loved, to be free. But the truth is that your worth never depended on that performance. You have operated all this time from a loyalty that was mistaken for love. You thought honoring your mother meant carrying the same chains that bound her. But look closely. The root that feeds from bitter soil, though it is the origin of the tree, should not dictate the height the tree will reach. You have kept your roots buried in soil of scarcity and sacrifice, hoping that by sacrificing yourself, you could change the color of the fruit. That is not loyalty, it is a prison. And what you call filial love has, in fact, become the main obstacle to your own authority. You need to understand that what you inherited is not a sentence, it is merely your origin story. And your story, from now on, is the story of one who chose, of one who separated, and of one who learned to nourish their own soil. You are no longer serving the pain that was passed to you. You are, for the first time, hearing the voice calling your true name, a name that does not carry the weight of her grievances, but the light of your own calling. You have lived under the weight of a diagnosis that was never yours, an invisible pattern that dictates every step of your walk. This pattern is the exhaustion of blind loyalty. You believed throughout your entire life that the only way to prove your love and your loyalty was through constant sacrifice. You became the guardian of wounds she could not treat, You became the emotional provider for a well that never seems to have a bottom, and this relentless quest to be the daughter who repairs the past has left you drained, with no strength to build your own future. This exhaustion you feel in your chest, this fatigue that does not go away with sleep, is proof that you are carrying something that does not belong to you. You are trying to bear the weight of another person's history, mistakenly believing that if you stop bearing it, everything around you will collapse. But what you have not yet realized is that your insistence on carrying this load only ensures that both remain stuck in the same place, prevented from flourishing because of a silent pact of pain. Think of the tree metaphor. Imagine a centuries-old tree that grew in rocky soil where water is scarce and the earth is bitter. The roots of that tree, to survive, deepened into rigid cracks, molding themselves to the shape of the rocks, taking on the hardness of the soil to avoid death. You are that tree. Your roots are deep and strong, but they were formed by a need for survival that is not yours. You continue seeking nutrients in soil that has nothing left to offer, soil that, in fact, is preventing your expansion. What you are experiencing now, this restlessness and this desire to separate from everything you have known, is not selfishness. It is the need for pruning for growth, so that you can rise, so that your fruit can be sweet and your shade can give rest to others. You must courageously recognize that your roots are stuck in soil that was not prepared for your true nature. Pruning is not a cut of rejection, it is a cut of liberation. You must release the need to be her salvation so that your own essence can finally breathe and seek its own soil, the one that is fertile, the one that is yours, the one that was promised for your lineage. Let this frequency become the seal of the place where your consciousness has just landed. The act of typing these 3 words is your public commitment that you have stopped running from yourself and that from this moment on you are present for your own life. It is not a request for permission, it is a declaration of presence. Type "I am here" and then return immediately to me. The reconfiguration of your identity demands that you learn to honor the source without letting yourself be consumed by the poison. Honoring your mother does not mean drinking from the cup of bitterness she offers you. Honoring your mother is, ironically, healing yourself. It is transforming the wound into clarity. It is looking at everything that was lived and saying with firmness and compassion that you will not repeat the cycle anymore. Clarity is born when you stop trying to understand her reasons and begin to focus on the direction of your own mission. You can love her from a distance that protects your peace. You can honor her with your prayer, but you must imperatively stop consuming the poison she still tries to serve you. Healing happens when you understand that the wound does not define who you are, but rather the starting point from which you are beginning your new trajectory. When you transform the wound into clarity, you stop seeing the past as a burden and begin to see it as a teacher who taught you, in the hardest way, everything you must not become. You are not the continuation of her suffering. You are the answer to the hope she never had permission to have. This is your new posture, a posture of someone who understands that true lineage is not the one that remains bound to pain, but the one that liberates itself to live in fullness. And now, as you breathe deeply, feel how the weight on your shoulders begins to ease, not because the story has changed, but because you changed how you stand before it. You are no longer the servant of that pain. You are the guardian of your own light. You are learning that your worth is not something that needs to be negotiated. It is something you inherited the moment you were called for this purpose. Your worth is non-negotiable, and your peace is your priority. If you feel this message touch the root of what has kept your heart restless, let your like be your silent amen. Do not see it as a number or as a social media metric, but as a silent agreement of spiritual recognition. Each touch is your way of saying that what was named here was named with truth. It is a simple gesture, but it is your signature on a commitment you are making to yourself that from now on your consciousness will be your compass and no longer the echo of the wounds you inherited. Let this small action confirm that you are ready to stop carrying what does not belong to you. There is someone on your path, someone who crosses your life or inhabits your thoughts frequently, who needs to hear exactly what was revealed here tonight. Think of that person who has worked much harder than everyone around, but who still feels the doors remain closed. Think of that person who carries a deep silence, a fatigue no one can explain, and a loyalty to family pains that is draining the very essence of life. It is for that person that you must bring this content. Do not do it as casual advice or a recommendation, but as a delivery, an act of silent ministry. The face that appeared in your mind now, the moment I spoke these words, did not appear by chance. That person was placed on your radar because you are the channel of clarity she so sought but could not find on her own. Send this guidance, because what was delivered to you by design must be transmitted as a service of love. And before we end this time of alignment, I want you to imprint a definitive mark on your journey. Do not do it as a request, nor as a distant hope that things might improve. Do it as a confirmation, as a declaration of ownership of your own identity. That agreement formed between your hearing and the truth we revealed in these minutes is the ground upon which you will build your life from now on. Type these 3 words with the awareness of someone who finally understood their place in the world. Let your fingers write what your soul has already sealed as your new reality. You are committed. You are commissioned. You are sent. You are the guardian of a new lineage that begins with you, not with what came before. You are the evidence that pain can be transformed into wisdom, and that the burden can be left in the past. You are the turning point your ancestry waited for generations. At this exact moment, all over the world, other people are receiving this same revelation, feeling the same call to release the ropes that bound them to cycles that did not belong to them. You are not alone on this walk. You are part of a silent movement, a network of souls awakening to their true vocation. And it is precisely because it does not announce itself with noise that this call is so real and so powerful. Stop! Whatever you are doing now, stop. What I have to say is not for everyone who hears, but it is deeply personal for you. Something happened in your life in the earliest hours of the day. You may not have the exact words to describe it, but the feeling that something internal changed is undeniable, and I am here to name exactly what it was. You have carried a doubt no one around you could settle, a silent question that weighs more than any physical task. Tonight, that question finds its definitive answer. Why have you felt so exhausted, even when there has been no physical effort proportional to your fatigue? Why, often, when you try to take a step toward your purpose, it seems there is an invisible force pulling you back, keeping you stuck in a place or a pattern you should have already overcome? The answer, though painful to contemplate, is necessary for your freedom. Your healing will not happen until you understand the hidden knot that connects your identity to the maternal figure. You are not here by chance. By the end of this time, you will recognize the 4 signs that have been appearing in your life with disturbing frequency and will know exactly what they mean for your future. You will understand the mechanism of blind loyalty that has blocked your progress. And before this moment ends, I will make a declaration about your life that will serve as the turning point for your story. Let us talk about the symptoms, because you need to see that what you feel is not a character flaw, but a response to your biography. You have been going through sudden waves of melancholy, moments when tears come without an apparent reason, as if you were processing grief for something you have not yet lost. You notice that conversations that once were natural now seem empty, superficial, and you feel a growing need to withdraw. You have repeatedly woken up at the same time, in the middle of the night, with your heart racing as if in a state of constant alert, caring for something you cannot see. And, most revealing of all, you feel a deep disconnect between who you are in essence and the image you project to the world. You live as if fulfilling a script that was not written by your hands. If at least one of these signs seems an exact description of your routine, if your shoulders relaxed minimally upon hearing this, you need to mark this moment. This number is the symbol of abundance that manifests when the cycle of scarcity is broken. By typing these 3 digits, you are declaring that you accept the end of repetition and the beginning of your own harvest. Type 888 and return immediately to me. Now that you have recognized the symptoms, we need to look at the diagnosis. The pattern you operate from is blind loyalty. You have been carrying a weight that belongs to your mother's history, a load of grievances, unmet expectations, and fears that were never yours. You became the guardian of another's trauma, believing that if you are strong enough, if you carry her pain perfectly, you will finally be seen and validated. But that is the trap of the chosen one. You try to heal the origin through your own effort that was never destined to succeed. You were not placed here to fix her past, but to honor your own life. Imagine, if you can, a tree whose roots grew in bitter soil, infested with scarce nutrients. The tree grows twisted, seeking light, but always limited by the soil that sustains it. For years, you tried to change the branches, prune the leaves, and paint the fruit, thinking the problem was the appearance of your growth. But the problem was never the branches. The problem is that you are still trying to extract life from soil that was exhausted long before you were born. Your healing will not come from an attempt to change the tree, but from understanding that you can and must extend your roots beyond that terrain. It is a process of necessary pruning, where you cut what is connected to the poison of emotional inheritance so that your own sap can flow. Let this recognition settle where it needs to, transforming pain into permanent clarity. Your presence here is proof that the process of separation and individuation has begun. Type, then return to me. It is not about dishonoring your origin, but about understanding that you cannot be the savior of someone who did not take on their own journey. When you try to heal your mother, you place yourself in a position of superiority. That, in fact, is a disguise for your own neediness. You exhaust yourself trying to obtain what she did not have to give, and this cycle must be interrupted. True honor comes when you become the person she did not have the courage to be, living the freedom she only dreamed of but never reached. If this recognition confirmed what your spirit already knew, let your like be your silent amen, not as a number count, but as a silent signature that the truth was received. What you have been living is not a character flaw. It is a lineage flaw. You feel a fatigue that is not physical, a weight on your back that seems to carry the world. But in truth, you are carrying the unresolved history of those who came before you. There is a hidden loyalty, a fidelity you swore without ever saying a single word. You decided, still in childhood, that you would be responsible for carrying your mother's pain so she would not have to carry it alone. And by doing so, you paralyzed your own life. Your relentless search to be noticed, to be validated, to do everything right so that finally you receive the approving glance that never came, is the echo of that childish promise. But understand, when you seek healing through her approval, you are asking a dry well to give you fresh water. You exhaust yourself trying to extract what she does not possess to offer. Your healing begins precisely at the moment you accept that your mother is, first of all, a wounded woman who could not cross her own desert. By trying to save her, you drown alongside her. There are moments in your week when anguish tightens without apparent reason. You look at your projects, at your dreams, and feel an invisible lock, as if you did not have permission to be happier or more prosperous than she was. That is the frequency of guilt, the guilt of advancing, the guilt of freeing yourself, the guilt of no longer being there in the trench of pain, holding the hand of someone who prefers to continue suffering. But your survival is not a betrayal. Your happiness is the only possible answer to the story you inherited. The process of disconnection is not an abandonment. It is a new way of looking. It is stopping expecting her to give you permission to be who you are. It is understanding that even if she never comprehends your journey, even if she never gives you the recognition you so sought, you are already complete. Your identity does not reside in her wound. Your identity resides in the strength you found to endure all of this until now. You have become a strong woman, but now is the moment to exchange the strength of sacrifice for the strength of lightness. There is someone in your life at this exact moment, someone you may have seen recently, or whose messages or phone calls always carry a tone of disguised melancholy. That person is someone who works silently, someone who lives in constant effort to maintain appearances of normality, but who, deep down, also feels exhausted from carrying weights that do not belong to them. The face of that person appeared in your mind now, not by chance. She needs to hear that she no longer needs to carry what is not hers. Send this message to her, not as advice, but as a silent invitation to the freedom you both so seek. Before this moment closes, you need one last confirmation. The truth you heard today is not something you'll apply tomorrow. It's something you are already living right now. You are no longer the child who needs to be validated. You are no longer the savior who sacrifices herself on the altar of lineage. You are the person who breaks the cycle. You are the person who finally allows herself to be. Type this with the awareness of someone who has finally understood that the choice to set yourself free is the only one that matters. You are committed, you are commissioned, you are sent. Right now, in every corner of the world, other souls are receiving exactly this same revelation. You are part of something bigger, something that needs no fanfare to be real, and that is precisely why your liberation is undeniable. The truth is that your energetic field was trained to detect others' pain before even recognizing your own need. You learned to be the mirror of her expectations, and every time you try to step away from that reflection, a part of you feels as if you're betraying your own origin. But your lineage is not a prison. It is merely the soil where you were planted. And a tree that grows tall enough must break through the shadow of the older branches to find its own light. The pruning process hurts because it removes what you learned to identify as part of who you are. Yet what you are removing is not your essence. It is only the excess, the weight of projections that were never yours to carry. When you look at your hands and realize they are tired of holding up a story of sacrifice, you are, finally, seeing reality with clarity. You did not come into this world to be the extension of someone else's unfinished journey. You came to be the turning point, the place where the current of pain stops moving forward. If you realize that your search for approval has always been an attempt to heal a past you never even lived, then you have begun to understand the hidden mechanism that kept you stuck. It is not about blaming those who came before, but about stopping the repetition of a plot that was written for you before you even knew how to read. The freedom you seek so deeply is not a place you go to. It is the decision to stop fighting battles that were already won by your ancestors. What you feel as a lock is simply your own resistance to being, for the first time, entirely responsible for your own flourishing, far from the gaze that expected you to be just a reflection. Life is waiting for you to occupy the space that is rightfully yours, without asking permission to be who your soul determined you would be, regardless of who raised you. You now realize that this profound exhaustion, this weariness that seems to come from decades before you were even born, is not a flaw in your character. It is the price of an invisible loyalty. You have carried what wasn't yours for so long that you forgot how to walk without the weight of others' expectations. Do you feel that by healing, you are abandoning the one who gave you life? That is the fear that keeps the chain intact. But understand this, true honor is not repeating the suffering, it is transforming the legacy. When you stop carrying the burden, you are not leaving your mother behind. You are opening a path so that she, wherever she may be, can finally rest too. Healing is not an act of rebellion, it is an act of liberation that echoes forward and backward in time. It is sealed.